long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching 8 years.
8
All
years.
years at the same school, same class.
Okay. And we're going to see 7th grade science.
7th grade science. And we're going to be doing a debate today in a Socratic seminar style. So they're going to be at their table and then in a circle and then back at their table, moving, a lot of movement.
We don't want to interrupt, but what we found with the 4th grade class was there was a little bit of downtime where we could ask questions kind of in the middle. We know we'll have a Q&A time at the end. Do you anticipate there will be Q&A time in the middle, or should we just wait till the end?
If you feel like you need to interrupt, that's fine.
No, I don't want to interrupt. Only if there's downtime when they're working would I do that.
Well, at the very beginning, they're going to work on discovery. That's just to get them all in the class so I can take roll and get that taken care of. And then I'm going to explain to them we're going to move to the Socratic circle. I'm going to move my inner circle first. My outer circle has a QR code to scan. And then they'll be joining us. They'll debate for a few minutes, and then we'll move back to our tables, and they have a different app that they'll be working on.
Right. It sounds like we'll hold our Q&A till the very end. That's great.
And during that app, I mean, that would be the perfect time to start with questions.
When they're working on their app?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, we are very excited. I will tell you, Miss Tom just blew us away. Her kids were amazing. We can hardly wait to see your students at work, and it's going to be a great 20-25 minutes for us to watch middle school with high engagement.
They're ready. I think they're going to be on the news.
Oh, is that how they feel that they're going to be on the news? Awesome.
TV there, so.
I wish I had a little thing that said ABC or something on it. All right, we'll let you get to work, and we will watch diligently. Thank you.
All right, the bell's ringing in 30 seconds here.
Right now, they can't see you. At the end. We've got the projector.
Did you say they can't see me right now? They can only hear me?
No, they can't see. They can just hear you because I'm going to move the camera to go back to the Socratic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
iPad, top barcode. iPad, top barcode. iPad, top barcode. Top one. iPad, top barcode. Top barcode. Scan that one and I have an iPad for you. Here's your ID. That's yours, and you're going to scan the top barcode. That's to log into your discovery, your student ID, and Buzzy too.
What they're doing, they're walking up with their iPads. They're taking a picture. Whoever's on that whiteboard, they're walking up. Barcode.
iPad, top barcode. JT. We're not on right now, right? Yes.
So,
Okay. Nikki, iPad, top barcode. Put that in.
And he was in the library to get his iPad.
Alright, you guys are logging into your discoveries, going to assignments, and you're creating a hurricane. You need to know what 3 items are required to create that hurricane on discoveries. After I get roll taken, then we're going to move back to our subtraction.
So, no, the week's table. I done used it. Oh, I went to fix this thing with the brakes out, man. But you can burn a week before the kids burn it out, man. It'll come
Do you have your hurricane yet? You do not have a hurricane yet. Yours. Do you remember yours? Student ID 17? Do you have a hurricane yet? You have a hurricane. Okay, just quick show of hands. How many of you do not have a hurricane yet? All right, I'm going to give you 2 more minutes. 2 minutes. No, you're just looking to make sure that you did it. You hit done, and it tells you that either of those two things. Did you make your smile? All right, I'm gonna ask a few people. Manuel, can you tell me temperature-wise, what do I need for a hurricane? What did you need?
30 degrees Celsius.
30 degrees Celsius. Anybody have anything different? Kara? 27 degrees Celsius. So we had 2 different temperatures that it could be between. Anybody have anything different? I think if you went lower than that, it would not create a hurricane. All right, what about latitude? Destin?
20 degrees north.
20 degrees north. Anything different? So we needed it to be at 20 degrees north. And what about the wind? The movement of the wind. Allison?
West, northwest.
West, northwest. Everybody have west, northwest? Okay, and where's your hurricane headed to? What does it look like? Sarah?
Around the Florida to Louisiana.
Okay, so the southern and east coast of the United States, is everybody's hurricane headed that direction? Yes. All right. If you are in the inner circle for the Socratic seminar, if you will move back there, you don't need your iPad for the inner circle. The outer circle, you guys have to come up here and scan this QR code for your outer circle. you're still going to start for us. Remember the Socratic circle. You're starting. You're starting. In the Socratic circle, you don't raise your hand. How do you know when it's your turn to talk? Thank you, Micah. Was there pause? No raising hands. Outer circle, you're taking notes in today's meet. Make sure you put your name on there first, and then you'll be able to type in your notes. All right, Izzy, go ahead and get started. So in our Socratic seminar, what we're debating, we're doing a stormy debate. We want to know if you are for relocation or if you are for rebuilding. So,
I'm for relocation because if my house got blown down, then I would want to move somewhere cleaner and nicer than rebuilding.
I also think that you should relocate because if you rebuild your house and another hurricane comes, you're just going to have to rebuild again and put that same money forth to making a whole new house.
I vote for rebuild because if they're going to relocate, we have to pay money and donations for new houses to be built in the new relocation areas. And the relocation areas are going to be more populated than what they normally are.
I think you shouldn't relocate because if you do, this is all lose time and money wasted. And also, if you use more fortifications, your bill is a lot, your house is going to be there. So.
The reason I wouldn't rebuild is because you're going to have to make your whole new house with that money, and those taxes are put forth for the people who live in our communities, like Azle and Fort Worth. So they're going to have to pay for you to rebuild your own house in the same place that the hurricane is going to hit again.
I'm not sure whether to relocate or not, because if you relocate, you're basically leaving behind everything new you could have been raised as a child. But if you do relocate, it will be most likely that you will be in a safer, better place, and you won't have to worry about another hurricane hitting. So, but I would rather relocate. But it just depends on what the person you are.
I would rather rebuild because you're near the ocean and those houses are cheaper than ones that are near the ocean but further away from the hurricane-prone zones. And if you're in poverty and don't have enough money, and you're in one of the best relocation areas, then the hurricane-prone areas would be cheaper for you to stay there temporarily.
Okay, I'm going to stop debate right there because I think you guys have good notes and can go back to your seats. When you go back to your seats, you're going to log into your Edmodo and you're going to go to the Stormy Debate Padlet. There you're going to type in your name and relocation or rebuild and your response. Maybe you changed your mind after hearing the debate. So I want to put your final response in the Padlet. Once you have yours in, if you'll refresh it, you'll see everybody else's. Okay? So outer circle, if you'll go back to your desk and get on Edmodo, inner circle, you guys go back to your desk and Edmodo. It's located in Edmodo under fourth period, and it is labeled Stormy Debate Padlet. No, you just tap on it, and it allows you to put your name and relocation or rebuild and your reason for that. If you need tech support and you didn't bring your magazine back, there is a magazine on each table. If you need text resource support. I think now would be if they want to ask questions.
Ms. White. Thank you, students. I think we will have some questions. If you guys will kind of formulate, if there's something you want to ask the students, I'll get us started. Ms. White, would you just get somebody who maybe could answer a question for us, one of the students?
Yeah, Allison, you want to go up? If you'll just go up and stand where that seat is. Yes.
We're wondering, do all of your teachers teach the way Ms. White does?
Most of them usually do. They use verbal and they use the iPads a lot so that it's more accessible instead of using paper and losing it.
Great. How easy is it to use Edmodo with your assignments, uploading things, getting your assignments off of there?
Edmodo is really easy. It's actually a lot easier than it sounds. The teachers can just post it on there, and then you can have it anytime with internet access. And then if you get an app like Type on PDF, you can just put it in there and have it accessible at any time when you need to write on it.
And do you get to take your devices home at night, or are you one-to-one, or do you just have classroom sets?
Yeah, we get to take them home at night so we can do our homework on them.
Are any of your teachers flipping instruction where you get the major portion of your assignment in the evening and then you come to class and discuss it?
Most of my teachers are actually discussing it in class, and then we go home and do the work at home. But she does discuss it before we take it home.
Compare your learning experience, how you have done with this style of learning versus maybe when you were in elementary school and didn't use as much of the technology to help with your learning.
I believe this is a lot easier because I know when I was littler, I would lose papers a lot, and so, or they would get destroyed, and when you have your iPad, it's always there, and you can always reach it. So in a lot of the apps that you use, you don't have to have internet, so if you have downtime, you can just be on them anytime.
Great. Looks like we've got another victim that's going to let us talk to him. How are you?
Elaine's next.
What's your name?
Hello.
What's your name?
My name's Dylan.
Dylan?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Dylan, tell us what you experienced in that Socratic questioning that you just did. Is that something you do a lot?
Do you do it a lot?
The Socratic seminar.
The question.
Questioning. Do you do that a lot?
But they can hear you. Go ahead and talk. They can see you.
Do you use the Socratic questioning, that Socratic method, in class frequently?
Do the teachers use it?
Yeah, we've used it before, and we were just using it right now, so.
And were you for rebuilding or relocating?
I was for rebuilding. I think that they can make houses that are safer, and they're doing different actions to help make it where it would be safer.
Great. Did you hear any arguments in that round table that you were doing that might make you think the other way?
Yes, ma'am, I did, because the people were making a pretty good point, but then again, if they were to go and relocate, we would have to be building more housing, and there would be overpopulation in many areas.
Great, thank you, Dylan, I appreciate it. Question? Good morning, tell us your name.
I'm Tara.
Nice to meet you, Tara. We are thrilled to be looking in on your classroom. If we walked into most classrooms at Fort Middle School, is this what we would see?
Usually, yes. Sometimes we do partner projects, and it's more, and we're more engaged in the process.
So tell me what makes this process more engaging than a traditional classroom.
In a traditional classroom, you're always having to keep up with papers and write stuff down. When for kids nowadays, we know how to use technology better, and we type faster than we can write.
Even with one finger?
Yes. Well, I can type. I don't know if anybody else can.
So you would say Miss White is a good example of what goes on in all your subject areas. Most of your teachers have moved to using Edmodo and using more of the tools to increase your collaboration and your creativity.
Yes.
What's your favorite class during the day?
My favorite class? Well, I have multiple favorite classes.
Yeah, I understand Miss White standing right there, isn't she? It's kind of hard to say lunch when she's right there.
Tell me what your favorite part of my class is, or has been this year.
Well, my favorite part of Miss White's class is she doesn't just make us sit down and be quiet and type or write. We're able to get up, walk around, get help from our friends, and help our friends.
What apps are you using on your iPad that are particular to science? Are you using some actual science apps?
We don't use actual science apps. We do go through Edmodo to different science-related websites.
And then what tools do you use when you're working? What do you use for note-taking, let's say?
Note-taking, I would use the normal built-in Apple Note app, or I would use GoodNotes or iBooks.
And how creative are you getting to be in all of your classes since you have the tool in your hand?
I've gotten very creative because we are able to look stuff up on the internet to give us extra ideas. Instead of having to wait to go home and look them up, we can just have them right there in the classroom.
Great. Is there another young man that's going to speak to us right there?
Yes. I got one more, Vic.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. Tell us your name.
I'm Israel.
Say it again. Israel.
Israel.
Israel, tell us how this type of learning, this kind of engagement has made a difference in how well you're performing in school.
It's easier for me because you can get on your iPad and do anything, or you can look up what your teacher has been asking. And do it my way.
Great. Do you find that you are more engaged in school than you used to be?
Yes, it's a lot easier and less complicated.
Great. Thank you. Let's see if we can talk to Ms. White for just a second.
Absolutely. Hi.
We're interested in the learning and where you're headed. What do you see in the traditional way? How you've been teaching, what'd you tell me, 8 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm assuming you didn't start this way 8 years ago.
No. It's really gone to more of the higher level balloons, the higher order thinking skills, and these iPads have really helped out with that piece. With all the creation apps that we have, we've been using EduCreations, Dose3, things like that, so the kids are actually creating their learning experience instead of me delivering it to them.
And are you seeing the learning go, is it harder to get all of your text in? Is it about the same? Do you find that you spend as much time on the text as you use, go in more in depth, less in depth? What are you seeing?
I think we get to go more in depth. The planning is what is different. The planning on the teacher's end is what's totally different. A lot more planning goes in, but once it is in the kids' hands, from where they start and where they end in a much higher place than they did before.
I guess that's exciting. How are you, when you look at your assessment data and you look at where you were, maybe, I know it's not comparing apples to apples, but just talk about what you're seeing in terms of data.
Well, what we've really looked at, we have curriculum-based assessments, and we've already had 2 this year. And we've really seen an increase in some of the applied learning that's going on the questioning. They're able to take the information that they learned and instead of regurgitate something, actually apply the knowledge to that question. So we're seeing higher results on those tests.
Has it affected, let's say, the number of experiments that you do? Are you able to get more in? Are you doing it differently? Talk about that.
It has affected it as far as we're able to do more, because if we can't bring it live in the classroom, we can certainly go online for that piece, and it's been more beneficial for them because they're getting to see things that they didn't normally get to see before.
Great. Questions? Somebody asked her something good about science. Do what? Okay, that's a good question. How have your parents adapted, and have you had buy-in with this different way of teaching?
That's a learning process still in the works. I had some emails even last night questioning the iPads and what are they being used for, and my response is always the same. We are using them every day in class. We have not moved to the point where we were sending all that work home because we have so many students without Wi-Fi. The teachers are really just trying to get it all done here as much as possible. And if they do have Wi-Fi at home, they're extending their own learning there. My kids have participated in what's called Genius Hour, where they get to choose their own learning at that time. And they've done all that work outside of school and on their own. And I know they're doing it because the projects have been amazing.
Great. Yes, question. Hold on just a second. She's the furthest she could have been from me.
I'd like to ask one of your students a question, if that's okay.
One of the students? Cameron, go on.
Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
Cameron Schultz.
Cameron, how are you doing? I have a question for you. You have access to all these tools. How have the tools deepened your learning? And how much ownership do you have over your learning once you're out of the class?
They've helped me a lot, and some of the apps are even offline, and we can do that at home. Because I have partial internet, but not all the time, and I use some of the apps.
So do you think your learning is deeper with access to those tools, and how do you use them to deepen that learning? Like when you're learning about something, how does the tool help you learn deeper and more about it?
It helps me, but it just has a lot of tools. Like I would have to show you to.
Well, thank you very much.
Great. Anybody? Okay, got another one?
Good morning. How are students graded on these projects and activities that they do?
Most of my grading comes in rubric form because a lot of what they're turning in it is not a right or wrong answer. It's about the application of what they've learned. So I have rubrics for almost everything. They've created Prezzies, they've created Educreations, a whole screencast about the digestive system or about food chains. I have them hanging on my wall outside so they can scan them as they come by and see other students' work. So it's really about putting all of that information together. And in the rubrics, that's what I require. If you've pieced it all together, you're at the higher end of the 4. And then if you're not even where we're getting started in the right direction, you're in the lower end of the 1.
There's a question about how has this new way of teaching affected your students who might struggle a little bit with the information?
I've found that it's brought those kids up to higher levels. They were struggling already, and this has helped them, kind of get over a little bit of the regurgitation piece. It's too much information for them to understand. At least they're getting the bits and pieces that they need to be able to apply the information that they're gathering.
Got another one. Hang on a second.
Have you seen less behavior problems in the classroom and since you've been teaching this way?
It's a different kind of behavior that we're dealing with. Instead of, the behavior has to do with the iPad itself instead of what it was before, the horseplay around or whatever. So it's just a different approach to that behavior. It's still there because they're 7th graders, and it's still there, but it's been easier to contain and easier to control with it switching to the iPad versus the physical.
Got another one. Hang on.
Hi, I was wondering, how did you get to this point from your 8-year journey as pertaining to training and the things that you're actually implementing in your classroom? So can you speak to your training and how it has affected implementation?
A lot of mine has been self-taught. I have connected on Twitter with so many educators, and that has brought me to where I'm at right now. And I try to share that with my colleagues here at school. If I go out and I learn something, I always try to bring it back to them because they're not all connected educators. This summer I went to my first ed camp, and it was an amazing experience. It was free professional development. It was not required to go, and all these teachers just came and shared. My very first ed camp, I was presenting in the first session, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been to ed camp before. But those connections through Twitter and being a connected educator are what have helped me be successful in the implementation of the technology.
That was a great note to end on. We wish we could stay all day with you, Ms. White. This has been fascinating to watch a group of 7th graders interact, and they're just engaged and doing great, and you are an amazing educator. We are lucky to be able to glimpse into your classroom. Your students are lucky. What an amazing teacher you are, to be self-directed in your learning, to have researched all this on your own and be out there sharing with others and sharing with other teachers in your district. Your district's lucky to have you, and we're lucky to have Azle ISD in Region 11. Thank you.
Thanks.